when you stop caring as much and you just start making music because you enjoy doing it, and you just make as much as you possibly can. Now, there are some situations where I have made a bunch of songs, some that I didn't even care about that much, but I just kept creating, right? Because the main thing was to just keep on creating as much as I possibly could, because at the end of the day, you go back and you listen to some of those things that you created, and you're like, the hell was I thinking here? This is a pretty good one, right? After letting it sit and letting it marinate there for like a couple years or even a couple of months, you might go back and go like, okay, this is a good one. Maybe I could finish this one, right? So I think the main thing is to just continue creating, because that's when you stop being so attached to these different songs that you're coming up with in different concepts. Um, Now, there's also a psychology behind why we engineer or we over engineer the songs we care about, right? So they found out that it was there's something called the trap of perfectionism, which I was talking about anyways, right? You want every instrument to be perfect, you want everything to sound perfect, right? And you pretty much want to give the fans the best that you possibly can, right? There's also the tunnel vision, right? You go so deep into the technical, you know, parts of that music, and you're like, man, I want an immediate, I want something that just hits, right? Hits me. I want to feel it, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes maybe that's not the combination of instruments is not necessarily for you something that you would feel, right? Maybe because of the music background you have. Maybe you were growing up listening to a certain kind of music, and you always felt like, oh, this is how something should sound. But then when you hear it on a record that you made, you're scrutinizing it so much, going like, man, I didn't do it as good as so and so did, right? And then you start to break it apart so much, and then your mind starts thinking that it's not as good. But then when you put it out there and go like, you just let go and say, you know what, let me release it, let me see what happens. And for some reason, sometimes that's what happens. I do have a song called what was this song I had? It was actually there's a few songs I have. So one is called Insomnia, which I when I dropped it, the I think it was like it was almost like as if it didn't have like an actual structure that I was used to, which was the structure you usually used to is you got an intro, chorus or verse, right? Then you have the chorus again, then you have a verse, then a chorus, then an outro, right? So in hip hop, it's